I'll just say shout out to all the Democrats living in mom's basement and like talking on the internet. You know, no matter how hard you try, arguing on the internet's like being in the Special Olympics.
Oh, okay.
No matter how good you perform, you still have you're still.
A candidate for the House from Ohio, JR Majewski, used the R word and the Special Olympics in an interview on the Trifecta Hour.
So, yeah, that's going to get clipped and ran against me in the general election. But
well, you're not going to get the slow people vote. I can tell you that.
That's
Let's
all right.
go. Let's go.
I mean,
Let's
look,
go.
my aunt has Asperger's, but you know, she acknowledges the fact that she
don't tokenize Asperger's.
No.
Good
That's
job,
literally
JR.
trying to talk to one of them liberals online. Like literally everything you say.
Then he mentions his aunt has Asperger's, so it must be okay to say the R word. Or maybe this is just how he talks when he knows she's not listening. Meanwhile,
are you a racist? Do you hate Mexicans? The media calls us racist for wanting to build Trump's wall. They censor us, but it doesn't change the truth. I'm JD Vance, and I approve this message.
sellout Senator J.D. Vance, who compared Trump to the Big H, has endorsed Majewski.
Like, why is it that the women with the least likelihood of getting pregnant are the ones most worried about having abortions? These people are odious on the inside and out. They're like 5'2", 350 pounds, and they're like, give me my abortions or I'll get up and march and protest. And I'm thinking, march? You look like you got ankles weaker than the legal reasoning behind Roe versus Wade. A few of them need to get up and march. They need to get up and march for like an hour a day, swing those arms, get the blood pumping, maybe mix in a salad.
And allege, you know what, Matt Gaetz also endorsed Majewski. Meanwhile, JR, when not lying about his record, performs rap videos. We'll leave a link in the description box below, but honestly, just take my word for it. Don't watch it.
Did you serve in Afghanistan?
Yes, I did.
How many tours?
One.
What year were you there? What years?
2002, 2003.
Wow. So you served right at the beginning.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
Tough. I don't like talking about my military experience. Not that we've said too much. I really don't like to divulge a lot of things about the military.
There's a reason why he doesn't like to, in his words, divulge his tenure in the military, as my colleague JR Jackson outlined in September of 2022.
Military documents obtained by the Associated Press through a public records request tell a different story than what Majewski was just telling. They indicate that he never deployed to Afghanistan, but instead he completed a 6-month stint helping to load planes at an air base in Qatar, a longtime US ally that is a safe distance from the fighting. Throughout his campaign, Majewski has offered his Air Force service as a valuable credential. The tagline he has is "Veteran for Congress." That appears on campaign merchandise. He ran a Facebook ad promoting himself as a combat veteran. And in a campaign video released this year, Majewski also marauds through a vacant factory with a rifle while pledging to restore an America that is independent and strong, like the country I fought for. Why is he walking through a vacant factory? That's some serious fighting he's been doing there. So anymore, there's more recently to this. The House Republican Campaign Committee released a biography that describes Majewski as a veteran whose squadron was one of the first on the ground in Afghanistan soon after 9/11. So, I mean, after all this valor, after all this courage, he must have something to show for it. The AP continued by saying this: Majewski lacks many of the medals that are typically awarded to those who served in Afghanistan. Though he once said he went more than 40 days without a shower during his time in the landlocked country, he does not have an Afghanistan campaign medal, which was issued to those who served 30 consecutive days or 60 non-consecutive days in the country. He also didn't receive a medal, a Global War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal, which was issued to service members before the creation of the Afghanistan Campaign Medal if they were deployed overseas in a direct service to the war on terror.
You know, there was a tough time in life. You know, the military wasn't easy, but in retrospect, it's one of the best decisions I've ever made. And, you know, I'd do it all over again. But, you know, out of respect of, you know, many things, you know, my answer to most people when they ask about my military service is, you know, I served honorably, and I fought for this country for a lot of months over in the Middle East, and so did a lot of people that went with me. And, you know, when I see all these things that are going on today, I mean, if I could put my BDUs back on, if I wasn't so chubby, I'd probably try to find a way to do it.
So he lied. He flat out lied. After his Special Olympics comments, the Lucas County GOP would censure him. Jessica Stewart, president and CEO of the Special Olympics, would say, in building communities of respect and inclusivity, it is important to understand how words or actions can hurt others. For people with intellectual disability and those who support and love them, use of the disparaging R word or degrading the life-changing impact of Special Olympics around the world and here in Ohio is not acceptable. In addition, not only did he use the slur and lie about his military record, JR Majewski was at the Capitol on January 6th. He's like playing the MAGA bingo here. He is, to no surprise, a believer in the Shmooanon conspiracy theory. On February 27th, Majewski, who was launching his second bid to unseat Democrat Rep. Marcy Kaptur, considered dropping out. Per Politico, his comments had clearly rattled some supporters. One local government official in Majewski's home county wrote on Facebook she worked with special needs children for over a decade, and she removed her pro-Majewski yard signs. Quote, so many of us were hurt by this, close quote. More from Ali Mutnick. Party strategists were banking on former Ohio Rep. Craig Riedel to block Majewski from the NOM. Then audio leaked late last year of him calling Trump arrogant and vowing to refrain from endorsing him. The revelation would cause panic amongst the GOP, who feared Craig would not be able to win a primary filled with MAGA, but that Majewski would not be able to win a general. They deployed the following strategy, convincing a third candidate, Rep. Derek Marin, to jump into the race shortly before the filing deadline. The Congressional Leadership PAC, a super PAC aligned with House Republican leadership, has spent $500,000 to boost Marin. As of this taping, Majewski has since decided to stay in the race. Quote, after carefully considering the pressure and attacks by the Washington establishment machine, my family and I have decided that there is no mission more important than continuing this race and standing strong for the Patriots. I am committed to fight for it. God, this guy is crazy. Pretty incredible, isn't it? Pretty incredible that an entire party and the Ohio GOP will censure this man, but then will hope that he wins and not have him drop out. Interesting. In addition, this man clearly has no shame. From the R-word slur to lying about his military service multiple times. In a way, I channel Dennis Green when I hear Majewski is who we thought they were. It's just the same exact tune. All of these dudes, every single time they're being rolled out as candidates. Completely unqualified and yet still a chance. Incredible.
I wish I hated anything the way Anthony Rendon hates baseball.
Saying something like that out loud is obnoxious and completely delusional and insulting to anyone who works hard, really hard, for like basic pay.
Former ESPN employee Michelle Beadle ripped into MLB player Anthony Rendon.
You just gave me the breakdown of how many games this has played for the amount of money he's played for. And this ass wants to come out and say, I wouldn't wish this life on anybody. I went from almost laughing to this gentleman to now despising this man. I'm angry on behalf of anyone who actually goes to work, God forbid, 2 to 3 jobs to put food on the table and pay rent and make sure their kids have what they need to go to school and barely are getting by. That's the life I don't wish on somebody, you ass. Why would you say something out loud on the day in which you are just now showing up for work for the beginning of the season? Bro, read the room.
And seeing your kids maybe falling in your path.
Yeah, definitely not falling in my path. I would not wish this life upon anybody, obviously.
Who said he does not wish being a pro athlete and making $245 million on any person. From Fox Sports, Rendon noted that getting married and having 4 kids has changed his perspective. Rendon said if baseball gets in the way of those things, he's leaving. He also said he's been weighing the pros and cons of staying in baseball since at least 2014. Hard to disagree. Very, very hard to disagree. Now, from The Athletic, Rendon signed a 7-year, $245 million contract before the 2020 season. $245 million. And his contract is still set to make more than $115 million over the next 3 years. That leaves the Angels in the unenviable position of having to work with a player who is unclear about how much he wants to be playing for the Angels. He declined to say how many games he wants to play, but noted that he's coming into spring with a plan to try and rid himself of injury issues. He had a relatively normal offseason after getting fully healthy in late November.
But at the end of the day, this is what you sign up for. And it drives me absolutely nuts to see guys. If this is what you believe, just keep your damn mouth shut. You don't got to say it. Because now, guess what? Everybody else that's going to come into that locker room is going to say, oh, well, we're third on the list here. We don't mean anything. And that's just, to me, a cancer in the clubhouse.
Former closer and World Series champion Jonathan Papelbon, an ex-teammate of Rendon's, went in.
Every single day this guy shows up to go out, it was like a chore. And he strictly got away with just raw athleticism and raw talent. Now, you can do that. If I'm the Angels GM, I'm trying to get rid of this dude as fast as I can.
And from Fox Sports once more, Rendon has dealt with numerous injuries and never appeared in more than 58 games in a season over his 4 years in Anaheim. Most headlines involving Rendon during 2023 were about him feuding with fans and media members while he was sidelined. Inside of his comments, which I truly believe were not broadcast, was him saying, "You think I like going under the knife and being in pain the majority of the time? I can't pick up my kids. I can't walk. You think I enjoy that? I don't want to do that." As always, if there are any stories we missed, if there are any that you would like to submit, get at me and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. DMs are open. And please, 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 if you can, we are doing a membership drive right now to keep the network afloat. If you can support us, go to tyt.com/join. There are many things that I disagree with, and there are some that I agree with. First off, we always say not to judge a book by its cover. And we truly do believe that money cures all ills, when many of the time it is the root of all evil. Anthony Rendon making this money and saying no one wants to live this life is just a tough thing to say to many people who, as Beetle rightfully put, can barely afford rent. We have to pay for medical bills. We have to pay for gas. We have to pay for groceries. We have to pay for cell phone bills. We have to pay for everything. So this guy playing a sport, being really good at it, when according to Papelbon and even Rendon, it seems like it's not a priority to them, really says something. It also says something that if it was a priority, how good could he be? One year, I believe he was a top 5 vote getter for NL MVP. What if he was fully committed? How good could he possibly be? That's on him, and it's also on the team that signs him. That's not on us. But what I will say is this. If he kept it at, look, in chronological order, it is my family, it is my faith, and it is baseball, no one would have a problem with this. No one would have a problem. But when he starts saying that, oh, my life is tough, and oh, you wouldn't wish this on anybody, it's very hard. It's a very hard sell. Because some people can't afford cereal. Speaking of, the Kellogg CEO said, you know, people should stop whining and they should have cereal for dinner. It shows how unrelatable these people are. If Rendon was just talking about like, yo, I have so many injuries, it's really, really hard. It's becoming harder and harder. The sports public is sympathetic to those things. Don't get us wrong. We are sympathetic to injuries. I believe that many folks in this space, fans that is, and even some in the media, have softened their stances on not calling someone a bust because they were injured. They just say oft injured or bad luck. I'm seeing where he's coming from, but it is Looney Tunes to say what he said when you are afforded such luxury in this world, and there are so many people who are struggling immensely.
Was biting my tongue on my political opinion because I thought it would be better for my children. And now you look up and my kids are going to a school that teaches black kids a complicated Kwanzaa. I prefer my kids knew Hanukkah than Kwanzaa. At least it will come with some financial engineering.
Does everyone remember this interview Tucker Carlson had with Kanye West?
You know, I was talking to Ice Cube today, and we got really beat up in 2020 for saying we need to approach things a different way and not just be trauma drunk. Right. Which is a term that, God just hit me with in the past couple of days. We are no longer trauma drunk. We're no longer trauma drunk, and we're no longer trauma bonding, and we're no longer woke in the sense of what woke is, because woke is just complaining about racism, but not doing anything about it. So what we're gonna do about it is say, hey, you know what? Y'all not gonna send nobody at me based on my opinion. You asked the question before. It drove me crazy to not be able to say that I like Trump.
Where he spouted this, and
I have visions that God gives me just over and over on community building and how to build these free energy, fully kinetic energy communities where we impress, we put the least impression on the earth. We're not building the new New York skyline fight, that we are humble in the way that we present ourselves. We've got to rethink who we are as a species.
Also this, West has made it a point continuously to make it known how much he despises Jewish people by appearing on Alex Jones's conspiracy-riddled show, that he loves the Big H and his supporters. However, the Carlson interview is where we centered the story, and with that being said, we introduced Tim Burke. Burke is known for quickly posting viral moments on his Twitter, and his previous work was with Deadspin, specifically uncovering the Manti Te'o fake girlfriend story. He's also worked for the Daily Beast and is a media consultant. Before we get into it, if there are any stories we missed, if there are any that you would like to submit, get at me and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. DMs are open. Look forward to all of y'all's submissions. And in addition, to keep the network going, please, if you can, go to tyt.com/join to make a donation today. Long and short, with Tim Burke, he was indicted recently, and that indictment laid out 14 counts, including conspiracy and wiretapping. Prosecutors claim Burke crossed the line by going into a streaming feed site where he acquired unbroadcast video clips of Carlson and West. This would follow Burke's home being raided by the FBI when the Bureau investigated the unaired clips of Carlson's show and how they were broadcast. From Rolling Stone, the indictment does not name Fox News explicitly, but instead refers to Network Number One, a multinational media company headquartered in New York City, New York, that produced and distributed content through multiple brands. Some of the lowlights from this Fox interview that we now know was Kanye West spouting anti-Semitic trope after anti-Semitic trope. Carlson saying that he was fearful when he was deposed for the Dominion lawsuit. He made unflattering comments to a makeup artist. He said Fox Nation, which I believe Tommy Lauren works for, their digital streaming service, he said it sucks. And he described a woman as, quote, yummy. The Daily Beast would go on to report that Fox executives were, quote, full on freaked out when the clips saw the light of day. Fox would send a cease and desist letter to Media Matters, who also reported on the clips. Angelo Carusone, seen here as chairman and president of Media Matters. In a statement, he said, reporting on newsworthy, leaked material is a cornerstone of journalism. For Fox to argue otherwise is absurd and further dispels any pretense that they're a news operation. Perhaps if I tell them that the footage came from a combination of WikiLeaks and Hunter Biden's laptop, it will alleviate their concerns. Good point. When Burke's lawyer was asked by CJR.org, so what is the government alleging? His lawyer would reply, here's what we know. Fox News does the Kanye West Tucker Carlson interview. They broadcast 2 hours of it. At the same time, Fox, like many other broadcasters, are live streaming continuously to many different entities, to their affiliates and so on. And these live feeds are in high definition and encrypted, but at the same time, they are also broadcasting low definition, unencrypted feeds. They're internet addressable with no user ID and password required. All you need to know is the URL. There are third-party sites that transmit these live feeds as a service. They have password-protected websites. And in this case, somebody on the internet provided Tim with the publicly posted user ID and password for a demo account on one of these services that are used by broadcasters. So Tim logs into the site, and the site automatically downloads to his computer a list of all the live streams on the site. The important thing to note here is that those live streams didn't require a user ID and password to access them, just a URL. When asked, why do you think the government chose to take on this case if there are so many roadblocks involved in the prosecution of a journalist, Burke's lawyer gave this answer. Let's imagine Fox News broadcast the interview with Kanye, and then some hours or days later, the outtakes of the interviews are broadcast on Vice and Media Matters in a way that makes Fox News look really bad. Fox says, wait a second, this is our content. We never gave that to anybody. We never authorized anybody else to broadcast it. This was stolen. So they go to get the ear of somebody at the DOJ and say, we were hacked. Somebody broke into our computers and stole our live feeds. The problem is, even a cursory glance tells you where the data came from, and it points right directly to Tim Burke's IP address. Why? Because he wasn't being secretive about this. He was going to public URLs from his own IP address. He didn't try to conceal it. He didn't circumvent anything. But Fox says it never authorized this, and the government went and ran with that theory. The other thing they're looking at is violation of the wiretap statute, which is the acquisition of the contents of a communication without the consent of at least one party to the communication. This from freedom.press is very, very important. The indictment against Burke does not accuse him and his source of hacking into any servers or deceiving anyone to get the outtakes or any of the other content he allegedly intercepted. Nowhere does the indictment allege that either the footage or the login credentials were not publicly available. Instead, it accuses Tim Burke and the source of using the internet to search protected computers and scouring the protected computers for electronic items and info they deem desirable. The indictment threatens journalists' ability to gather information online by implying that they have a previously unrecognized duty to ask for express permission to use info they find posted on the internet. It does so by accusing Burke and his source of stealing info they found online merely by using it without securing any authorization or permission. This is terrible. Now here's the thing. Burke is a journalist, yet I did not see his occupation listed in the indictment. Take with that as you will. Now here's where I must direct all of you, each and every one of you, to please, if you can, help out Tim Burke's legal fund. Every bit counts. Please help him if you can.